He won't leave me alone.
Whether they like it or not, they're never getting rid of it.
Who was most likely to break character during filming?
Pedro.
What, would he just try and make you laugh, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, babe. Did you hear the news?
My whole family just got in a house fire.
No, I just got cast in a Pedro Pascal movie. I know, right? Fuck, isn't that awesome? Oh my god. Oh no. Don't worry, babe. I'm not gonna leave you now that I'm an A-list celebrity actor.
Look, this is not a life-changing, the MCU has been saved, this movie paid off my car, this movie cured my depression. It's not that. It's really not.
There's a lot of Marvel movies. If you're in the top 5, you're doing...
Now, this isn't one of the greatest Marvel movies to me.
Just watch
Fear
Joaquin.
is the way that they win, for one. And so keep telling the stories and keep expressing yourself and keep fighting to be who you are. and I don't
Emanating
know,
disgust.
the people that try to make you scared.
Why is he dressed like a Power Ranger?
What's wrong, babe? You don't seem... I thought you'd be more happy for me. I am happy for you, babe. It's good news for your career. Congratulations. Thank you.
Oh, they just announced who's producing it too. Harvey.
It's been a dream to join the MCU. The movie is called The Fantastic Four. I'll confess, I did all my stretching for real.
Let's see your nails.
Oh, yes, of course.
They're very nice. Yeah, they're very beautiful.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, I'm a heartthrob.
I don't know why this guy makes me so uncomfortable.
Is this the moment Pedro Pascal's golden era comes crashing down? For years, Pedro has been the internet's favorite, a fan-favorite face from The Mandalorian, The Last of Us, and now Fantastic Four. But behind the charming smile and viral interviews, there's a story bubbling to the surface.
And fight back.
Look at Joaquin.
And this is a perfect way
I
to
love
do
this.
so.
We are all
Joaquin
Joaquin Phoenix right now.
It's not having it.
And don't let them win. Don't let them win.
And Joaquin is just like, will you shut the up?
And this time, it's not scripted. Joseph Quinn. Yes, that Joseph Quinn, the rising star who portrayed Johnny Storm in the newly released Fantastic Four reboot, just dropped a bombshell. In a recent interview, he peeled back the curtain and revealed what many suspected, but no one dared to say publicly.
He won't leave me alone.
Pedro Pascal's behavior on set wasn't just difficult, it was controlling. From controlling the cast and crew to making co-stars uncomfortable, especially Vanessa Kirby, Pedro's alleged behavior paints a very different picture than the one fans know.
I am your coolest daddy.
Constant touching.
Very codependent, very codependent.
I'm gonna have a panic attack and I'm gonna leave.
Pedro Pascal is going from TV to movies with the biggest budget movie of his career so far with Fantastic Four, but doing it, everyone seems to have one question on their mind, and that's that if he slept with Vanessa Kirby or not.
What started as a dream casting turned into a nightmare production. This isn't just a petty feud, this is a reputation on the line. A Marvel production marred by off-camera chaos. And an actor once hailed as Hollywood's most beloved leading man, now under a spotlight he might not escape from.
Sometimes I felt like I was in a Reed Richards science class, which is not what I really wanted to be in.
Let's dive deep into how Joseph Quinn exposed it all and why Pedro Pascal might never recover. When Marvel announced its new Fantastic Four lineup, the internet exploded. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Abon Mosbachrock as Ben Grimm. Fans called it the most stacked cast Marvel's ever had outside the Avengers. The hype was real and expectations were sky high.
A lot in this movie that left me with some questions, but they weren't even questions like, why the f would they do that? It was more like, why the f would they do that? Like, please explain it.
But almost immediately, something felt off. Behind the scenes, the dynamic between the cast wasn't as picture-perfect as the press junkets suggested. While everyone smiled on stage and posed for red carpet shots, rumors quietly started surfacing, and all of them pointed in one direction: Pedro Pascal.
Who's most likely to turn up late to set?
Vanessa Kirby.
Oh! You're saying Pedro?
Yeah, Vanessa.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah. Both right.
Okay. You want to tell us any more about that?
Sources close to the production hinted that Pedro had taken control of the set. That might sound exaggerated, but according to insiders, his behavior started shifting from professional to overbearing. At first, it looked like dedication. Pedro was known for being deeply invested in his characters, but this time, it went further. According to Joseph, Pedro began stepping into roles that weren't his, trying to rewrite lines, reposition actors during scenes, and even suggesting camera movements to the director. Joseph described it as creative suffocation. collaboration. Crew members echoed the sentiment. One assistant reportedly told an anonymous blog, "You could feel the energy change when Pedro walked on set. It wasn't excitement, it was pressure." This behavior was especially jarring considering Pedro's warm public persona, the goofy, lovable interviews, the endless fan edits, the countless TikToks. But on set, Joseph claims he witnessed a completely different version, one that demanded control and dominance in every scene. The turning point? A major confrontation during a reshoot sequence, where Pedro allegedly criticized not just Joseph's performance, but the director's entire approach to the scene, in front of the entire cast and crew. Joseph never directly named Pedro during press tours, but fans who rewatched clips from Comic-Con started noticing subtle body language, distance, tension, even moments where Joseph appeared visibly uncomfortable sitting beside Pascal. What made things worse was that Pedro wasn't just acting like a co-lead. According to insiders, he was trying to be the production, and Joseph, he wasn't having it. But the real crack started to show when Vanessa Kirby got pulled into the chaos. Joseph Quinn's accusations weren't vague. In his words, Pedro didn't just act like a lead, he acted like he owned the entire production. The atmosphere on set reportedly shifted from collaborative to oppressive, with Pedro constantly questioning direction, improvising without approval, and monopolizing screen time. One anonymous crew member said, "Pedro behaved like the director, the producer, and the star, all in one. It didn't matter who was officially in charge." According to sources, Pedro was obsessed with how Reed Richards would be portrayed. He reportedly asked for major script rewrites to make Reed more central, even in scenes meant to spotlight other characters. Joseph allegedly pushed back during a table read, and that was when the tension really escalated. But it wasn't just about screen time. Pedro's behavior reportedly extended into the personal, especially with Vanessa Kirby. Joseph didn't give specifics in his interview. He didn't have to. When he said, "Let's just say not everyone was comfortable with the way things played out off camera," fans instantly picked up on the implications. Reports started trickling in. Pedro allegedly made repeated unsolicited attempts to workshop scenes with Vanessa in private, often without prior scheduling or clearance. One crew member hinted that Pedro would linger on set long after his scenes wrapped, often hovering near Vanessa's trailer or waiting for run-throughs that didn't exist. While Vanessa hasn't made a public statement, her silence has only fueled speculation. And Joseph, he made it clear that lines were being crossed. In an interview clip that went viral, Joseph was asked what he learned from his first major Marvel film. His answer was chilling, that no matter how big the names, no one should be above respect or boundaries. It wasn't just the cast that noticed. The crew allegedly filed internal complaints about Pedro's conduct, particularly how he spoke to junior staff, snapping at lighting assistants, brushing off costume designers, and overruling blocking setups that had been finalized. The control extended even to the editing room. Sources say Pedro demanded to see cuts of key scenes before they were finalized, arguing that his character arc wasn't being honored. Marvel's editorial team reportedly refused, causing yet another blow-up. It's clear, this wasn't a clash of creative ideas. This was ego, unchecked and unfiltered. But as controlling as the atmosphere had become, the biggest revelation was yet to come. Because Joseph Quinn didn't just vent behind the scenes, he went public. And what he said next would send shockwaves through Hollywood. By the second month of filming, Pedro Pascal wasn't just stepping on toes, he was stomping all over the set. What started as subtle power moves quickly escalated into full-blown blow-ups. Pedro wasn't just rewriting scenes in his head anymore, he was allegedly challenging the director, Matt Shakman, in front of the entire production crew. Multiple insiders recalled a specific incident during a late-night reshoot. It was a key emotional moment between Reed Richards and Johnny Storm. The script called for a vulnerable exchange, something intimate, raw. But according to Joseph, Pedro hijacked the tone entirely. Instead of following the script, Pedro improvised aggressively, pushing the scene into a completely different emotional direction. The director called cut, asking Pedro to dial it back and stick to the page. Pedro refused. In fact, he reportedly snapped, "If you want this film to be remembered, you'll trust my instincts." The room went silent. Joseph, who was still emotionally in character, stood still, eyes locked on Pedro. A crew member described the atmosphere as dangerous. It didn't stop there. Over the following weeks, Pedro allegedly began lobbying for more solo scenes, requesting rewrites that boosted Reed Richards' dialogue while sidelining other characters. A revised script draft, which somehow leaked online, showed a major shift. Johnny Storm's screen time was cut by nearly 40% from the earlier draft. Joseph didn't stay quiet. Behind the scenes, he voiced his concerns to producers, raising alarms about Pedro's overreach. His main point? The film was losing its balance. What was supposed to be a team-focused reboot was starting to feel like the Pedro Pascal show. But challenging Pedro wasn't easy. His celebrity shield was strong, and many on set were reportedly too intimidated to push back, not just because of his reputation, but because of what he could do after the cameras stopped rolling. One assistant editor even claimed Pedro requested access to raw takes, a highly unusual move, and criticized Joseph's performances in private. This wasn't collaboration, this was domination. Tensions reached a boiling point during a closed-door meeting with Marvel execs. According to one source, Joseph bluntly asked, "Are we making Fantastic Four or Pedro Pascal's passion project?" That line stuck. Some say it was the moment the tide began to turn. But while Joseph was fighting to save the film's integrity, he was also preparing to go public, quietly, strategically. And when he did, it was a gut gut punch no one saw coming. No headlines, no tell-all expose, just one interview. Subtle, yet devastating. Joseph Quinn appeared on a major podcast just weeks after Fantastic Four wrapped. The hosts, clearly excited, tried to guide the conversation toward Pedro Pascal, expecting compliments, maybe some lighthearted, behind-the-scenes stories. What they got instead was silence. When asked how it felt working with such a legendary actor, Joseph paused, smiled slightly, then said, "Sometimes the legends aren't what they seem." The host laughed awkwardly, trying to brush it off, but Joseph didn't blink. That was it. The moment the internet exploded. Clips of that interview hit TikTok within minutes. Fans dissected every second. The pause, the tone, the way Joseph's eyes dropped when Pedro's name was mentioned. It wasn't just what he said, it was what he didn't say. And it didn't stop there. Later in the same interview, Joseph was asked what surprised him most about doing a Marvel film. His answer? You expect the challenge to be physical, but sometimes the hardest part is protecting your peace in a chaotic environment. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. Reddit threads blew up. Twitter flooded with speculation. YouTubers posted hour-long breakdowns titled, "Is Joseph Quinn exposing Pedro Pascal?" And suddenly Pedro, the untouchable, was under fire. That one interview shifted public perception. The internet started digging. Fans resurfaced old press clips from the Fantastic Four promo tour. Moments where Joseph seemed distant. Times where Vanessa Kirby avoided eye contact. Even an awkward panel where Pedro talked over the moderator, and Joseph visibly winced. The narrative was forming, and it wasn't flattering. Joseph never dropped names. He didn't have to. The silence spoke louder than accusations ever could. Within days, new stories started surfacing. A VFX artist anonymously claimed that Pedro had berated post-production staff over the color grading of his scenes. A wardrobe assistant said he demanded custom costume changes mid-filming, ignoring continuity. All of this fed the storm. Suddenly, people were asking real questions. Was Pedro Pascal always like this? Did fame finally go to his head? Or was this just the first time someone had the guts to speak up? Either way, one thing was clear. Joseph Quinn had lit the match. And what happened next? It would drag Marvel itself into the fire. Here's where things take a darker turn. Because what if Pedro's behavior wasn't a surprise? What if Marvel Studios knew exactly what was happening and decided to stay quiet? According to multiple leaks from within the production team, concerns about Pedro Pascal's conduct weren't just whispered in hallways. They were formally documented. Reports were allegedly submitted by at least 3 different departments, including hair and makeup, sound crew, and even the assistant directing team, each citing issues ranging from aggressive communication to persistent disruptions in scheduling. Yet nothing changed. Instead, the studio reportedly pushed forward, burying complaints and downplaying on-set conflict. One word: leverage. Pedro Pascal wasn't just a star. He was the face Marvel was betting on to carry the Fantastic Four reboot into Phase 6 of the MCU. With his momentum from The Last of Us and The Mandalorian, Pedro had the cultural clout and fan loyalty that Marvel desperately needed. They couldn't afford another delay, another scandal, or worse, a lead recast, especially after the Jonathan Majors fallout and increasing scrutiny from fans and investors alike. So, allegedly, Marvel chose optics over order. One producer, speaking under anonymity, claimed that multiple staff members were told to ride it out and not escalate anything that could affect marketing. Another insider even suggested that Marvel offered Pedro certain script privileges to keep the peace, including added screen time and final say on certain dialogue edits. And here's the twist. Some believe Pedro knew exactly how untouchable he was. That would explain why he felt emboldened to override directors, challenge producers, and dismiss co-stars. Because behind the scenes, the higher-ups were already backing him, no matter how disruptive his behavior became. Joseph Quinn, however, wasn't playing that game. Sources close to the actor say he was disillusioned by the way Marvel protected Pedro, especially when Joseph attempted to raise concerns about the creative process. At one point, it's believed Joseph threatened to walk unless boundaries were respected, a move that briefly halted production for 2 full days. His team pushed hard for changes. Marvel responded with silence. And as the pressure built, Joseph realized something chilling. This wasn't just about Pedro's behavior anymore. It was about an entire system choosing convenience over accountability. But while Marvel tried to contain the fallout behind studio doors, the internet had other plans, because the fans, they started to turn. Pedro Pascal had spent years building one of the most loyal fan bases in Hollywood. He was Daddy Pedro, the internet's sweetheart, the ultimate mix of goofy charm and rugged edge. Memes, fan cams, he had it all. But after Joseph Quinn's interview, everything started shifting fast. The first wave of backlash came from skeptical fans who refused to believe the rumors. They defended Pedro fiercely, calling the accusations baseless, speculative, and rooted in jealousy. But then came the second wave, the evidence wave. Clips from press junkets resurfaced where Pedro visibly talked over Vanessa Kirby in interviews. Screenshots spread showing Pedro getting top billing and promotional materials, even when the scene distribution didn't support it. One viral TikTok compared Joseph's screen time in trailers versus Pedro's and titled it Reed Richards or the Reed of Everything. And then came the Reddit leaks. An anonymous user, claiming to be part of the editorial team, shared detailed posts about Pedro's involvement in post-production. According to them, Pedro allegedly demanded that one fight sequence be re-edited 3 separate times because he felt it made Johnny Storm look too heroic. That post went viral. Screenshots, timestamps, breakdowns. Fans poured over every frame frame of the final cut, pointing out how Joseph's key moments felt abruptly edited or trimmed. The mood shifted. More and more fans began to question Pedro's on-set persona. Influencers who had once posted Pedro content began walking it back. Unfollowing until further notice became a trending comment under his posts. Hashtags like #PascalProblem and #JosephWasRight started trending on X. Even major outlets picked it up. Entertainment blogs, gossip channels, and YouTube drama analysts all dove headfirst into the controversy. And suddenly, Pedro Pascal, the untouchable icon, was now a subject of public scrutiny. Sponsors started pulling back. A major fashion house reportedly delayed a campaign involving Pedro. His team went into lockdown mode, refusing press requests, issuing no comments, and quietly shifting focus to his next HBO project. And yet, through all of this, Joseph Quinn said nothing. No follow-ups, no clarifications, no retractions, because he didn't need to. The court of public opinion had already made its judgment, and Pedro Pascal was no longer its darling. But the biggest question still loomed. Was this just a temporary backlash? Or was Pedro Pascal's career genuinely about to hit a wall? The answer might depend on what happens next, and whether the full truth ever comes to light. The internet wasn't the only place Pedro Pascal was taking hits. Back in Hollywood, the whispers turned into real conversations. Behind the scenes, casting directors and executives started quietly re-evaluating Pedro's position. Not because of fan backlash, but because people started talking. Other actors, former co-stars, assistants, producers, individuals who had worked with Pedro over the years began sharing eerily similar stories. Not always as extreme as what Joseph Quinn allegedly experienced, but enough to form a pattern. Comments like, "He takes over the room," or "If he doesn't get his way, it gets ugly fast," started surfacing off the record. One anonymous Netflix executive reportedly described Pedro as difficult but too valuable to challenge, until now. And the casting community noticed. Two major projects Pedro was attached to, one a prestige miniseries, the other a high-budget thriller, were suddenly re-evaluating timelines. The phrase "creative differences" quietly crept into media whispers. Publicly, nothing was confirmed, but insiders knew what was happening. People were hedging their bets. The industry had seen this before. One minute, an actor is everyone's favorite. The next, one rumor, one headline, one bold accusation, and doors start closing. Joseph Quinn, meanwhile, experienced the opposite. While he stayed silent in public, insiders say the respect he earned behind closed doors skyrocketed. Directors praised him for keeping things professional. Executives reportedly admired his restraint. Some even started calling him the breakout truth-teller Hollywood didn't know it needed. And as new opportunities rolled in for Joseph, a cloud of uncertainty started forming over Pedro's future. Would he bounce back? Possibly, but not without scars, and definitely not without the industry watching more closely than ever before. So, is this it? Is this the moment Pedro Pascal's career takes an irreversible turn? Is this where the curtain finally pulls back on Hollywood's carefully protected personas? Joseph Quinn never screamed, never accused, never named names, but in a single interview, he did more damage than any scandal, tabloid, or paparazzi photo ever could. Because when someone quiet finally speaks, people listen. Pedro Pascal, once the charming heartthrob of two generations, now finds himself at a crossroads. He's no longer just the guy with a lovable laugh and viral charm. He's the subject of a much darker conversation, one about ego, control, and unchecked power in an industry that loves to protect its stars. And Marvel, they're caught in the middle. With a billion-dollar franchise on the line and a controversy they can't ignore, fans are waiting to see what, if anything, they'll say. But no matter how this ends, one thing is clear. The illusion has cracked. The hero mask has slipped. And now the world is seeing Pedro Pascal in a light that can't be dimmed by charm alone. The question isn't whether Joseph Quinn exposed Pedro Pascal. The real question is, what else hasn't been exposed yet? If this story shocked you, hit that like button and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Joseph Quinn? Has Pedro Pascal's star power shielded him for too long? Or is this just another internet overreaction? And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from over, and Hollywood has a way of hiding things until someone finally tells the truth.